Welcome back, dear listener. Here on the far side of the moon, we have Carlos, we have Lety, and my name is Albert, of course. Now, we're going to be talking about episode 9, Umbilical. Obviously, we're talking about Raised by Wolves, which is an HBO Max original. Obviously, it only comes out in the app, so if you don't have that, please go ahead and give that a try. Now, without further ado, let me just get right into it. First scenes actually starts off with Tempest, and obviously Tempest got yelled at. She got yelled at by Mother to get away from her. But she basically got yelled at by Mother to get away from her, and we see Tempest walking around the crash site, and she actually bumped into this can of food that we see on the floor.
Well, I think we're supposed to assume it's food, right?
Well,
we have
yeah,
no idea what the
'cause-
fuck she's putting in her mouth here.
Yeah, she picks it up and she just starts like scraping at it. So we just assume that it's food. Obviously, she's hungry. We don't know what she's been eating because she did run away from the camp. And she kind of hears like clangering. She kind of hears metallic noises closer to the ark, and she just assumes that it's Mother, obviously because Mother was there. And she starts thinking about Mother. We just hear her talking like, "Mother, are you there? Mother, where are you?" Obviously, again because she did see Mother around this area. She starts getting closer to the ark. She starts wandering. You could see all the destruction that obviously because it's a wreckage, basically a wreckage zone. There's a couple of cables looking around. Wreckage. And the cables kind of start sparking around her. She kind of gets scared, and she starts to hear. Chant. No, not chant. It's more of a prayer. She starts to hear someone talking to Soul, and as soon as she hears the voice, she recognizes who it is, and it's, lo and behold, it's Otho, which is the man we obviously know that raped her and got her impregnated with with his kid, of course. He's still talking about do not despise me for my weakness, grant me power of your light. He's talking to Soul, of course, assuming that he's by himself.
Well, he's looking for his favor, looking for Soul's favor.
Exactly. So he's obviously praying to this god, and Tempest sees him, and she's obviously thinking, and she has this little spear. I want to say it's a little spear. It's a metallic thing that she found on the ground, and she's gonna use it as a weapon, basically. She starts approaching Otho.
I just want to say, when I was watching this episode, I heard his voice. They hadn't shown him yet, but I heard his voice and it automatically recognized him. And
Yeah, because the last time we saw him was in that explosion.
And
in
we never,
the pod. We didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't give us a conclusion on that, I guess.
yeah, and I heard his voice and I was just like, no, like please, like no.
Yeah.
And you can see in Tempest's face, like she obviously recognizes him as well. And she kind of looks, and that's when you finally see Otho with the metallic helmet. And Tempest just like closes her eyes, and she's doing these facial expressions like, this guy, like
Yeah.
she finally finds out that this guy survived. So you can see a discomfort that it's just really hard to see.
Well, I want to point out that when she was talking to Mother about this before, she was expressing a regret that she didn't get to see him be executed for his crimes.
Yeah.
So I'm going into this of two minds. I'm thinking, okay, she gets that chance again.
Yeah.
And two, she even gets to do it herself potentially if
Seek
she
some
wants
retribution.
I will actually say that this is not healthy for a victim, because it's one thing to have society condemn this man to death and to put him to death for his crimes, and it's another thing for a victim to kill someone like this in revenge. Because one thing, it's like you get the whole society's approval to do this, and it's not you're not yourself that gets carried out, but you get that sense of a togetherness with the whole community, that they come together with you to put him to death. And it's totally different to put him to death yourself. So I'm scared for her at this point, where like I want her to get that closure that she deserves.
Yeah.
And
But
she
this
wanted, but
this is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, let's get back to the scene here. Now, it's, Tempest is like, "Hey," right, and Otho kind of like, turns around. He's like, "Have we met?" And she says, "No, we've never met, but you know me." and we finally get a view of what he actually sees through the helmet,
Mhm.
which is very interesting because we just assumed that he can't see anything, and we just assumed that he was seeing everything through Soul's eye. I mean, maybe that's what it is or
He
whatever.
had
But
mentioned that he can see shadows, but the way
Yeah.
that they show that
It
the
looks
way that he
pretty
sees,
clear.
it looks clear. It's not shadows. Like a Tempest kind of gets close to him with the spear, right?
Mhm.
Spear.
And
And-
he could see every outline in her face.
Yeah, and yeah, he can even see her eyes. So nothing to do with shadows.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more like a digital panel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Tempest is trying to strike him. They go back and forth. They have a little conversation there, and then you hear Mother's like, "Tempest, no!" She starts charging at him. She has a she has a cord around her. Mother has a cord around her. She pushes Otho to the ground, and she opens a. He has like a backpack, and just like ask him, "Where's your robot?" And it's in the backpack. And he opens it up, and she starts asking him. And it's like, "Okay, what options do you still have available? What can you still do? Because we're just looking at a headless android. I mean, sorry, we're looking at just the head of an android, no body obviously attached because it's in the backpack. Obviously, this is what happened after the explosion, right? So
Yeah.
he just left with the head. Arthur put it in the backpack. Very smart of him, by the way, because
Yeah,
he
'cause
knows he needs this thing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
live.
By the way, I find it funny how he put like a sponge or whatever it was on the mouth of the head. Like, I don't want to hear you, but I need you, so I'm gonna carry you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And basically, Mother starts telling him, like, okay, what button do I press? Little things here because he has a couple buttons in the back of his helmet, just to see how he could take blood out from Otho.
Mm-hmm.
Mother at this point is arguing with Tempest. And Tempest is like, "Oh, I want to kill him. It's me that should do it." And he's like, "Wait, hold on, no." He's like, "What are you doing?" Because she sees Mother stab the little out where the blood is coming out. She stabs it with the cord that she had attached to her, around her, sorry, and she actually attaches it to her stomach. She's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm feeding my fetus." And Tempest is kind of shocked by this because Tempest is not aware that Mother that it was pregnant or that Andrews could actually have dysfunction, right? Now that scene ends. Okay, that scene ends, and it goes back to the camp where the church was at, completely burned down, and Marcus is laying down next to the structures that his son built. And he's laying down on it, and he's just talking to Soul, and like, "Come on, help me get my son back. Where are they?" Again, he's still talking to Soul.
Well,
The last place that where he thinks he got an answer from him.
Yeah.
Where he's pleading to Soul. He's saying, tell me. Implying he's not heard from Soul.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
hasn't heard from him in a while. And the last place that we saw, which we mentioned in the previous episode, he saw the burning of a church as a sign from Soul himself. So it makes sense for him to go to the same spot where he last thought he heard from him.
But I'll say that I think the last time we actually know that he heard from Soul
For a fact, yeah.
was when he was fighting himself.
Yeah.
And he was about to kill Mother.
Yeah,
Or-
it was when he ordered Father to
Yeah.
drop her in a hole.
Right.
And he had this whole vision of him fighting himself, and he was hearing Soul that whole time.
Yeah.
Since then, we have not seen anything like that. We have not heard any of the whispers. As far as we
Nothing.
know, he's in the same position Artho's in at this point,
Mhm.
where he's been condemned by Soul or maybe
Yeah.
abandoned by him.
Talking to him, but no response.
Yeah, I guess we're seeing exactly what you just mentioned. This is how Otho took his steps. We're assuming that at some point Otho went against Soul, and this is what happened. And we're seeing what's left of him.
Or he was just abandoned. I don't even know if there was a... Because as far as we know, Artho did exactly what Soul would have told him to do. He raped these girls. Maybe the one thing that Soul didn't want him to have done was get caught. Maybe. But we didn't get to ever hear Artho listen to
But
Soul.
I'm pretty sure he did several things that he didn't want. Like, he gave Marcus several opportunities. He was about to kill Mother, let her live.
Let her live.
Was about to kill her again, and that's when you see him fight
Himself.
So maybe he gave Otho a couple of opportunities as well. But
then again, the human race is always left to...
I'll say maybe maybe Soul abandoned Artho once he realized he's of no more use. Maybe the same thing here with Marcus.
I can't believe you're saying about the Mithraeric beliefs.
I have no comment.
Okay, now we go back to the scene. We don't see Marcus anymore at the church. It cuts back to the actual kitchen area where they have in the Mithraeric camp, and we see Father holding a little
A candle.
A little candle is obviously lit up. Out of nowhere, no warning, Marcus comes up. He's like, I'm tired of hearing this noise, and snaps the finger, or cuts it off. I'm sorry. He cuts it completely off, clean off. It's the same finger that he's been doing the Morse code, and he was tapping at the candle. He cuts it off like nothing. Hunter gets it, and he looks at it. He's like, what, why?
Stunned.
Yeah,
honestly,
stunned.
like, it's because there was no need for it. Marcus was outside, and out of nowhere, came inside, tired of hearing this, cuts the finger off.
Because apparently he could hear it from all the way in the church thing.
I'm kind of I'm kind of expecting some like extras or additional footage that maybe they cut off. That maybe Marcus was inside. He kept on hearing it, and you can kind of see like Marcus kind of.
They're starting to get annoyed by it.
Because this just happened out of nowhere.
Yeah, no warning.
Well, I'll say maybe this is leading up to something that happens later in this episode. We've already seen that it seems like Marcus is losing it. The first instance, I would say, is when he was lashing out at his son.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just an extension of that, potentially.
Now, obviously that happens. Hunter has a finger, freaking out, moving on, because the scene actually cuts off. And it goes back to the lander. And Father's outside of the lander with Hunter. And they're both putting all the backpacks into the lander because they're going to take off, right? And Father mentions that he has something in his hand, or he feels something in his hand. I forgot exactly what he mentions, but he goes, sends the man on the lander, and again, Hunter opens up his hand, the little skin, the little flap, he takes it off, which is, we assume, is diagnosis. And there's an option where you could revert him back to his old programming.
Which, by the way, just a little comment, you can kind of finally see a little bit to what they see, because he kind of like scrolls, and it says like, revert to...
Yeah, he kind of goes over like on the lander where they just put their hands over it and they raise their hands and you see like a little thing come up, or diagram or whatever, a hologram. It's the same thing with the hand, yeah, you're right. It's the exact same thing with the little hand. Obviously not a giant hologram, but something does come up. And it tells him that it's password protected for him to go back to his old programming. And then right then and there, Hunter, he gets like a little flashback, that actually there is a flashback about the Morse code. And how soul is the light, and he uses that as the password,
and it takes it,
and accepts it. Password goes through, and Hunter's looking at Father, and he's like, Father, and then Father actually finally kind of smiles, and he says, an android, a black hole, and a glass of milk walk into a bar. And Hunter gets super excited. He's like, Father, like you're back, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know where it gets cut off because you hear Marcus like, all right, guys, let's go. And he's like, okay. Father tells him, you need to convince them to take you on to this journey that they're going on, wherever it is that they're going, right? He's like, okay, and Hunter seems really happy about that.
Yeah.
Scene pans out of the lander, and we see Father and Hunter standing outside of it, and Marcus leading the whole crew in. Obviously, the backpacks are already inside. They already packed them, and Hunter starts talking to Marcus, like, hey, like, can you take me with you? Like, I know the kids. I could talk to them, whatever. Marcus kind of like laughs at that. He's like, really? Because you couldn't handle them like last night? Because, I mean, obviously they all ran away.
Without him.
So Marcus kind of leans on the lantern and he's like, are you coming or not? Gets in, really happy. He already had his backpack ready. I don't know if y'all saw that.
Yeah.
He has his backpack ready. He jumps in. And once they're inside the lander himself, we're inside the lander, and Lucius actually tells him, where are we going? Like, we can't track them anymore without their trackers, obviously. He said, we're going back to the temple so I could talk to you. Basically, he's trying to get in contact with Soul again because he hasn't heard from Soul in a while. Scene ends with them leaving in the lander, and it actually cuts off to Mary/Sue just standing outside because they made a little camp, I guess, outside of some rocks. That's kind of where they've been sleeping for the moment because obviously they ran away. And she goes back to she's actually just searching the perimeter, whatever she's doing. Camera cuts into Campion and Paul inside the little rock formation that they have, that they're just laying there. And he notices that the bag starts moving, and he sees the little rat. He sees Mouse. He sees Mouse back alive, and he's like, what? I thought you said he fell down the pit. He's like, yes, but I prayed to Soul to give him back to me, and it worked. So now you don't have to wonder whether or not Soul is real anymore. That's something that Paul mentions to Campion, making it very clear, because Campion is supposed to be atheist, so this is very clear to him, like, well, like, this is something that's not supposed to happen. But Campion does mention, it's like, well, actually, Tally fell in a hole as well, and she came back, but I guess the word that I'm looking for is that she came back evil.
Mhm.
She came back and she talked to me only that she was different, and this is when he mentioned that she was evil.
Yeah, because she was in the subtitles telling Campion to hurt his father, and what we could hear it sound like she was telling Campion to kill himself.
As well, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this scene gets that little conversation gets cut off by Sue. Then it was like, "Girls, please wake up. Guys, we're taking off now. We're already leaving." It goes back to the lander. The lander's actually getting to the temple, which is pentagonal shape. That pentagonal shape temple that they have.
Yeah,
there,
some
which,
sort of pentagonal.
The one
Shape,
where
the one that we saw in the previous episode.
Yeah, the one that was warm.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that was warm, exactly. He goes there, he kneels down, he starts praying. He's like, I will do anything, just tell me where my son is. Obviously desperate. He's a desperate man begging for his deity to tell him where his son is.
Mhm.
He starts questioning everything that he's done there. He's like, oh, does my son not trust me anymore? Does he not love me anymore? Keep in mind, guys, this is not his son. But
he got close.
he got close to him,
yeah.
and he really, this is his son now, I guess. This is it. And scene ends there. It goes back to Mary / Sue and all the other guys. They found the actual ark, the wreckage of the ark, and they're there and say, "What are we doing here?" And they, well, we're looking for food. We're looking for anything to survive. Obviously, because they escaped, they have nothing. They have none of the
Resources.
food. They have none of the resources exactly. They have no resources anymore. Now Holly, she bumps into one of a little box that was on the floor, and she's like, "Oh, this used to be a relic."
Well, I want to point out it was being clutched by a dead Mithraic person's hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in their hand. Looked like they cared for it, right?
Yeah, because I mean, like Holly pointed out, apparently it's a relic, and she mentions that it was a relic and it belonged to a she-wolf, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, it was. It belonged to Romulus.
Oh yeah, it
Romulus.
belonged to Romulus. He and his brothers were raised by a she-wolf who lost her cubs.
Raised by she-wolves.
Raised by she-wolves, guys. Aaron, is this what you got the name?
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. I
Thank
like
you
that.
for the answer. Thank you for the answer.
And then she's like, "Oh, I found it for a reason." And then here we go to Mary reminding us that she's an atheist. She's like, "A reason? Like, come on, really, religion?" Like, okay, you could keep your tooth. Now, if you could please make of some use, that would be great. Find something of use, because for her, a tooth is nothing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they
at
can't
this-
eat a tooth.
Yeah, no shit. At this point, Campion screams out, "Oh, like blood! Like I found something! Like, I found a trail of blood!" And that's what they, they kind of chase down a little path, and they see a fresh blood on the ground, which Mary points out, and they're like, "Oh, Tempest!" And it's like, "Well, it could be from anyone, obviously, because Tempest already."
They know she ran away.
They know she ran away. Scene cuts out to the outside of the ark. Actually, it's not even the outside of the ark anymore. It just shows that Mother and Tempest and Otho, they left the ark and they're just wandering, walking God knows where, because I don't know where they're going. And obviously still attached to her. Otho still taking the blood from him to feed her fetus. And they're basically talking about how it's not in her programming to be pregnant, and how is it possible.
At this point, Mother had already told Tempest everything, how she was connecting to the pods and how she's now pregnant. And I kind of just find it funny how Tempest was like, "Oh, how is that possible?" And Mother was like, "Oh, to it's
Beyond my understanding.
beyond my understanding." But
She says, "My creator made it possible."
yeah.
Her deities, dude.
Yeah, and Tempest says, "Oh, you're starting to sound religious, Mother."
Now at this point, they start talking about her programming, and he's like, "I actually send you away because I was scared that I was gonna endanger you." He's like, "You're not a danger to me," Tempest lets her know. He's like, "But I feel the urge to protect you, and I also feel the urge to feed my fetus." So at this point, it's very clear we don't know which one's stronger at this point, because now she has a fetus, and we've seen her skirmish around the ground, and she mentions that her programming is very unpredictable, and it was just a precaution for her to yell at Tempest.
Oh, we know that she's been acting feral.
Yeah.
So it's something about this fetus that's making her more animalistic.
Now, Otho, being the rapist that he is, he's like, "Oh, Tempest, obviously she's not pregnant. Like, she's malfunctioning, she's insane. And she'll turn on you," and she starts going on it, and then Tempest turns around with the spear, and she's like, I will skewer your metal head with this." Otho kind of stops, obviously, because we know that he could see her, and he just kind of pauses. Everything stays quiet, and then Tempest just walks away. Mother doesn't say anything. They just leave, and they kind of pan out and let us know that they've been walking for a really long time, because it's a giant landscape of nothing but rock and nothing. There's not even trees. There's just rock. There's almost no greenery at all.
Yeah, it's like a mountainous area.
Yeah. Now, Mother actually looks at this, I guess, like a little canyon area, and it looks like a giant dip, and she sees metal. She sees shiny objects on the wall, and she actually says, "Oh, metal." They start walking towards it, and this is very interesting because it kind of shows us a different angle from it. Implies that someone's looking at them.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
It implies that someone's looking at them because it's not panned out normal, letting you see the whole area. No. It's like peeking, going back in.
Yeah, it's a shaky kind of camera.
Yeah, it's kind of showing us that someone's hiding and not trying to see them. And then Mother mentions like, oh, these were placed here, and they're metal tarot cards. The tarot cards that we saw in the episode where Marcus had the vision of that scalpel. And that's where those things were now.
Well, they found them by that map that creature had created, right?
Yeah, keep in mind that exactly that's what I was going to say. That creature's the one that had these last. Why are they here? Why are they placed like this, right? Just another question for us. More questions than answers, I guess, right now in this whole series is happening. At this point, they start talking about the cards, and Otho was like, oh, those devil cult cards and whatever. And then Mother's like, wait, hide. I hear something. She puts Tempest on the side, and Otho's just standing there like an asshole. And in the open, everyone can see him, and she's like, "Otho, hide yourself!" Right? like God, man! Like I just told you to hide. And then we hear Sue, and it's like, "Oh, you think you can do now?" We just hear a conversation, right, of what's happening. Is that right? Maybe a little bit. Oh wait, there's more blood. Because remember, guys, they were following a little trail of blood. And Mother peeks out, and she sees the little crew that Sue has now. She's like, "Oh my God, Campion!" And then they run to her. All the other kids hug Tempest, and Mother's hugging Campion. And Sue puts out her gun because she knows that this is a necromancer. Fearing for her kids and the kids that she now
shoots a
has.
warning shot.
Yeah, warning shot. You're right. She does a warning shot. Everyone freaks out. And everyone's standing in front of Mother, protecting her. Letting him know, is like, no, like, step away from her. Like, that's an order. I'm telling you, like, that's an order. I need you to get away from her. And then Paul's actually like, no, I can't, Mother. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because they know that Mother is a caring creature. They see her actually as a mother figure. She's not going to hurt them, and they're very aware of that. And then at this point, Mother gets up and is like, don't be afraid, children. It's like, soldier, I understand your fear. And it's like, Otho, come out of here. Otho steps out, and he's like, oh, this android's malfunctioning. Letting her know that she thinks she's pregnant, right? And it's like, no, Mother says, he's under my control. Like, they see the connection. And then Sue's still going a little bit hectic here, a little bit shocked by the situation. He's like, I will shoot you and that rapist. And Otho starts, like, he falls to the ground. He's, like, breathing heavily. He's like, what are you doing to him? And Mother's at this point standing with Paul and Vita. And the camera just kind of zooms to her stomach, and the kids kind of, like, move to the side, and it shows that she has a belly now.
Yeah, pregnant belly.
And then she says, what, you're feeding on him? That's what Sue told Mother, and Mother says, no, my fetus is feeding on him. Campion gets close. He's kind of like, what? He's like, what's wrong with your stomach, Mother? He's like, don't you want to say hello to number 7, Campion? He's like, it's just a temporary name. We'll have to come up with a permanent one soon. Perhaps you'd like to choose one. Giving her son an option to name his brother or sister, right? I mean, we don't know yet. And then Mother's super happy to let the other kids know. It's like, guys, this is my own. Obviously, I mean, she was having contradicting feelings in the episode before, but I mean, I guess she's coming to terms with it.
I think once she told Tempest, like, oh no, it's my fetus. My fetus needs the blood. As she's completely accepted that this is reality.
Yeah, like, this is it, and it's mine now. And Mother's letting him know, oh, I made it myself. And Campion says, how did you? And he's like, well, that is beyond my understanding. Again, mentioning that, I think it's pretty hilarious. And Mother lets him know, like, do you want to say hi to it? And Vita's like, hello.
Yeah, super cute.
Yeah, super cute little child. And I think this is very interesting. Campion gets close to Mother. And
kind of hesitant.
And says hello. Like, gets real close to her stomach and says hello. mother reacts to it like very strong. Like at this point we could
Mhm.
assume it's the fetus that is reacting to
Oh
him.
yeah, she's gripping her
Yeah.
belly and stuff. It's definitely something in her belly that's causing her discomfort.
Yeah, so she kind of falls to the ground, and Paul gets close to her, and I believe it was Tempest that gets close to her as well.
Mhm.
And they're trying to pick her up. It's like, come on, help her. They're telling Sue, like, help her, because I mean, that's the only other adult in that
Yeah.
area, right? So I was like, okay. Sue is like, oh, do I really? Like, she's kind of conflicted, honestly. In this scene, I feel like she's very conflicted because she knows what this is. She knows it's a necromancer. She wanted to kill her, and
Mhm.
now the kids are forcing her to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they kind of brings her to a little
Just
cave that was there.
before we like keep going,
Yeah.
because I know this is gonna continue.
Mhm.
I just wanna bring up how Otho said the devil cult cards.
Mhm.
So maybe this could feed into the theory that that creature that we saw with the devices is the anti-soul.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we're gonna talk about prophet kids, maybe Campion could be the prophet, and this since is the
He did react to it. 'Cause
anti-soul.
Paul's not the prophet. Carlos.
Yeah, the anti-soul baby now. And then Campion talked to it, so it's kind of like repelling each other. Maybe that's why Mother reacted.
Maybe
Interesting.
they're equal and opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Otho's gonna is walking towards him, and he's you can see that the rope is kind of tight. So they're like, "Oh, give me more slack. Get closer to us, right? Obviously."
Yeah, because he's passing out from the blood loss.
Yeah, but who cares? He's a
Yeah,
rapist.
fuck Arthur.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a good body bag though. I mean blood bag.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, scene cuts off right there. Obviously, they entered into the cave, and that was it. Scene cuts back to the temple, and we see Mark is there, defeated, from what I would like to say, which Lety pointed out that he just looks done. He looks done, right? He's there. He's on his knees, and you could hear the soldiers going like, "Oh, what is he doing? He needs to make an example out of her." And he sees Hunter and Father standing next to each other, and he approaches Hunter, and he's like, "You're my son's friend, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." Okay, and the girls? Sure. And he keeps looking at Father. Every time he asks a question, he looks at Father. And he's like, "Okay, do you not know what they were planning?" He's like, No, I didn't know. They didn't tell me anything. I don't know. Marcus notices, like, "Wait, why do you keep looking? Why do you keep looking at Father?" No, well, it's because he was with me the whole time. And he saw it, and then Father kind of reacts to it, and he picks it up, and he's like, "Yeah, that is very accurate.
Mm-hmm.
None of the time that I was with him, they were there." And at this point, Marcus just grabs Hunter and he brings him closer to the temple. And in this part of the temple that he's getting him close to, there seems to be like a little circle, a small entrance big enough for an arm.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcus actually picks up his staff and he puts it towards the hole, and it catches fire. And he's like, "Are you lying to me?" And Hunter's like, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." And he forces his hand into the hole, and Hunter's screaming nonstop, just yelling real loud. And we're assuming that his hand is on fire, right? But he pulls his hand out, and his hand is perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
We see a little bit of smoke, but that's it. No fire, no nothing. His hand is perfectly fine. One of the soldiers there mentions like, "Oh, like it protected him. He must not be. Soul shielded him.
Mm-hmm.
He must be telling you the truth, Your Eminence." So, which he was, guys.
Yeah.
Which he was. Just saying.
I know that scene kind of made me feel really like, "Oh, Marcus, what are you doing?" Because I'm not all for Hunter, even though he's kind of winning me over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
he's redeeming himself.
Yeah, he is.
He's in the process.
But like that's so like,
Because Marcus is losing grip of his
Yeah.
people.
Oh, yeah.
His
and
leadership
he's
is
really desperate to get some answers, and he's probably like, "Okay, maybe if I do this, I'll get some reaction from Soul or something."
Yeah, that's definitely what he was looking for, right? Looking for some sort of, and then when he sees the intervention where Soul saves Hunter's hand, right? And he didn't like it. He actually walks away from it as the soldiers are saying like, "Oh, he's good."
Yeah.
And he hunches over to the side of the temple and he crouches down, not kneeling, but instead just getting
Kinda
down
into like
into
a fetal position kind of deal. Like,
yeah, he looks super defeated right there.
Yeah. By the way, I know the Mithridatic people are kind of losing faith on Marcus, but when Marcus did this to Hunter, they just completely didn't. I feel like that's the part where they were like, no, this guy's fucking crazy.
Well, they let
Because-
him do it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at the same time that you can see in their reactions, like, what is this guy doing? Because they only doubted him, but after this, they
I
don't
mean, he was
really-
still doing a bunch of crazy stuff, but I guess this is the time where they're starting to see that it's not making sense. This is
Mhm.
after they saw him and Sue and Mary fight.
Mhm.
Him, Sue / Mary fight, argue in front of everyone. He started screaming at Soul, and the church just burned down, and they just saw him walking away from it.
Well, yeah, because they all went to try to save the church, and he was just watching it,
Yeah,
like,
he was just
mystified.
letting it burn.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The scene ends there, and it cuts back to the cave again, but now it's nighttime, and they show Otho just kind of. It looks like he's holding, he's standing guard, but obviously he's not. They just have him outside because I mean he's a goddamn rapist, soul damn rapist, and you see the blood going, and Mother's sitting. She's sitting down, and we see Mary / Sue. Just kind of basically doing, I guess, a diagnosis, you would say. An android, I guess, just checking out to see what she's doing.
It's definitely some bedside manner.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, is she gonna be okay? Campion asks. It's like, yeah, she will be fine. You know, everything's okay. Like leave us alone. You know, like it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Let her rest. Resting definitely seemed to help her out. Mother actually tells Sue right there. He's like, did you tell him? And Sue was like, well, whatever this is, like the resting seemed to help, so it's fine. And like, yeah, I did. I detect that it's growing, and you're displacing. No, that's not what I meant. Mother interrupts her. Did you tell them the truth, Paul, about who you are? He's like, wait, what are you talking about, Mary? Not realizing that Mother could see the surgical scars like she did with her husband. And Mother actually brings that up. It's like, you had a facial reconstruction like your husband. You two have been deceiving the Mithraic, making it very clear. It's like, I know that you're not who you say you are. You've been lying to these people. Mary comes to a realization, like, if you tell Paul, like, it will destroy him. Mother's interesting. Why do you care about Paul? He's not your own. You don't have the caregiving programming that I do. Mary's like, it's human empathy, nothing that you wouldn't understand about. You're just an elaborate piece of tech. And Mother's like, yes, that is correct. That's also what I thought. And maybe we have more in common that we think. Don't flatter yourself. Mary kind of sternly says, like, you're still an android, right?
Oh yeah, she's definitely taken aback by this comparison.
Yeah.
But she's not wrong. I mean, they're both atheists. They
do.
both would be mothers.
I would kind of like to see this, I guess, friendship evolve.
Oh,
Maybe into second season, so two friends with kids going to the tropical zone.
Do the tropical zone.
Maybe after your time skip.
No, here we go.
Hashtag
no,
time skip.
no.
That 1 year time skip.
Hashtag long hair mother.
At this point, this scene just kind of falls and looks at Paul, and then goes back to the mother figures that are there. And Mother actually tells Mary / Sue, like, you know what? I will respect your wishes. I understand that sometimes we must lie to spare the feelings of humans. And I guess Mary, at this point, she kind of gets like I felt like it was a feeling of relief, because you could see it in her expression. It's like, oh, okay, like she's not gonna tell her.
Well, I think that could be it, right? I think that is more like she is not completely understanding what's going on. It is a sense of relief, but it's also maybe a fearful look in her eyes, where it's like, okay, well, what the fuck is this? What is this that I'm interacting with? She thought she understood that it was a killer robot. And now, after interacting with her for this long, it's actually the first time she actually has a conversation with her, where they are seeing eye to eye in a lot of things, and they can talk about things that aren't terrible, right? They're coming to an understanding. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, right here in that same scene, Mother actually gives words of reassurance. I feel like it is. It's like, you seem to be a successful mother, something that maybe Mary needed to hear.
Yeah.
If not a natural one, that's what she says. And this is where we see Mary get closer to Mother, and oh, my bad, I'm thinking of a different scene. But at this point, actually, Mary gets up. Maybe, like I said, this is maybe something that she needed to hear. She sits down, like, far away. She gets a little light that she had, and You just see her, I guess, pondering, just
Yeah,
thinking about.
the scene cuts with her just thinking, I think.
Yeah, that's basically where the scene ends. It cuts back to the temple. All the guards are asleep. Marcus is laying down next to the rock, obviously because it's cold and the rock is the only thing that's warm, and he's not being covered by everything. But the other soldiers have their own sleeping bags or whatever. At this point, you see Hunter walk towards father, and they both kind of sneak into the lander and they take off, and obviously taking their only form of transport. Marcus gets up on your feet. They start shooting at the lander, which I think it's pointless, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, Hunter says, "Oh, soul, guide us."
Praying for safety.
Praying for safety.
And father's just like, put on your damn seatbelt.
That's right. Sit back there.
I guess I like the fact that both Hunter and Holly, even though they don't trust the Mithric people, they don't lose faith in their religion.
That's true. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, we're seeing, at this point, I feel like we're seeing a lot of different, this is how you see a different branch of a religion.
Different interpretations.
Okay, there you go. That's very better said. Different interpretations of the religion, because everyone believes in not everyone, right? But I guess Mithric are going to believe that you need to do everything by the book.
Mm-hmm.
But the girls, the younger generation, from the looks of it, are like, yeah, everything needs to be done by the book, but you guys are taking it a little bit too far. Like, they're starting to see a bunch of the...
because they've seen, like, the consequences of it, right?
Yeah, they're seeing, I guess they're seeing that at this point, they're seeing Marcus take advantage of it and use it in a different way. He's more putting force than the actual religious test, which I would like to remind everyone that he doesn't really know them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, they just took the lander. Marcus is all mad. He's like, oh, the Hunter must have cracked down. He doesn't even care. He's like, yo, Dorian, you were on guard. Yeah, but it's because you were on guard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you fucked up. Like, this is on you. He walking towards the temple. He's like, damn, he yells. Scene cuts. It goes back to Otho, still laying outside, obviously being drained.
I'm sorry. Before we cut away from that scene there, it's the way that Marcus shouts right there. It's kind of chilling to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it was their first take or not. This is where I'm going into the filming of this. It was kind of a shrilled kind of shout that we got from Marcus right there. And it was like a different tone that we've seen from him throughout the show. So to me, it sounds like, it could be the actor getting tired and just like the voice is cracking when he tries to scream right there. Or it could definitely be the character where the character is the one that's cracking. The character is breaking down at this point.
Which would make sense, because at this point, everything is going wrong for him.
Yeah.
Soul's not talking to him anymore. Church is on fire. He lost his son. He lost his wife. He's
the people that he's supposed to trust around him are not falling in line.
And he went for the temple to search answers, and he didn't get what he wanted.
Yeah.
They actually saw something completely different when Hunter's hand was inside.
It's contradictory,
Yeah, so nothing is going his way at the moment. So yeah, that scream that you did say, it does suck. Going back to where the next scene was at, Otho's there, obviously being drained, weak, just sitting down, and Mother picks up some of the tarot cards. And this is a very interesting scene. I personally don't know the specific of each tarot card or what it means.
Well, these aren't tarot cards. I think that's the best way that we can describe them.
Well, that's what they introduced them as. They introduced them as tarot cards, and they mentioned all from those evil cults.
Well, I just mean that, like, if anyone's not watching the show, they shouldn't think that they are legit tarot cards. They're the best way I would describe them is, it looks like they are metal sheets with some sort of engravings on them, and they do have different pictures.
Yeah.
One of them has a group of little shadowy figures on them, and this is the card that she's focusing on right now.
Yeah, and she's looking at the card, and the actual card starts kind of had the same effect like is in the sim, like it's kind of
it's some sort of digital glitch or something.
Yeah,
right?
And Mother's looking at it, and she's like, scan. And Mother goes into, I don't know if it's what the card says or a memory, or I don't know what this is.
Some sort of other scene, right? It transports her.
Yeah, it transports her somewhere else. Her mind goes somewhere else, and she actually goes to a. It goes to a field. It's actually next to a hole. I want to point that out again.
Oh yeah.
It's next to a hole, and there's a bunch of hooded figures.
Those creatures that I mentioned before that had the device. They had the tarot card, and they had the trackers that the kids had.
So it goes to this scene. It's very dark scene. It kind of looks like a ritual kind of deal.
Mhm.
That like
Yeah, it's definitely like a cult feeling.
exactly. Very well said. Now, mother's walking into it, and I guess right next to a hole, she sees.
I want to call it a pentagonal cube.
Yeah, some. It's
It's
it's not too big. It's maybe about the height all the way to her stomach, maybe.
Yeah, it's the same shape as the
The
temple, but this is a small device here, and it's a prison kind of thing because you can see that it's holding a creature, one of those creatures that they have been killing for food.
I don't think that's a creature though.
Dude, go back. Go back right now. It is definitely one of
It's
those
like
creatures.
the head one of the creature.
Look at that.
Do we get a better look? It looks like one of the creatures, bro. To me, it looks like one of the creatures. Letty?
I think you'll be the tiebreaker here.
No, don't tie break. Just say us what you tell us what you
I
think.
do think like from the nose up, it does look like the creatures, but the mouth is different.
Well, that's
It looks organic.
but that's why it could be something that they muzzled it with.
Maybe this is something for us to interpret as completely different because
Maybe.
she's getting this from one of the cards. I think it could be.
Going back to the anti-soul theory,
I was about to
the
say.
only reason maybe Mother can read it now, or she hadn't tried before, but maybe she's able to scan it, is because she has a fucking anti-soul in her belly and enters and
Maybe this is a
sees
sign.
cold and then
Maybe this is an interpretation of what maybe her child would look like. She doesn't know what it is. Maybe
Oh.
she's scared
I
of
was
it.
I was thinking
No?
I was thinking she entered this. There's a bunch of creatures around, and that is the main anti-soul. That's the devil. Like if you're relating, that's what I'm thinking it is.
I need my viewers to know, our viewers, I'm sorry.
Yeah, of
I need
course.
our viewers to know that I'm shaking my head this whole time.
Yes.
I disagree wholeheartedly. What I think is going on here, I think this is one of the creatures imprisoned in this cube. I don't know why the cult is doing this. Wait, let me finish. Please.
Yeah. Okay, go.
I think the cult is
Sacrifice?
wait, I lost it. So this cult has got this creature in this little prison cube, and its head is sticking out, and it's shaking its head like it's in danger or it's in some sort of pain. I think what's going on, I think they're showing us that there are two groups of creatures living on this planet. I think we've seen these creatures that have attacked our kids and the androids before, and that they've been eating them for sustenance. I think that what we're supposed to assume is that these hooded figures have also been subjugating these creatures. It's some sort of cattle to them too.
Right.
I think. So we haven't actually gotten to see what these creatures are, but I think whatever they are sophisticated enough to know that, okay, well, we have to contain these creatures, these other creatures that might hurt us too, and we feed off them, potentially. Or they do some sort of ritual
Yeah,
with them
that's
here.
what it looks like. Again, maybe they're trying to feed something in that giant hole.
Maybe.
I thought you were gonna take it like something completely. Like I thought you were gonna kind of relate it to what I was saying, because I was like, maybe this is the main one, and the creatures that we've been seeing that they've been feeding on
Subordinates
are like,
feeding this.
I
guy?
guess, like demons, if you can relate it to.
Now we're going to a
Christian-
religious
Yeah.
I was
and,
shaking my head through all that. So.
Like there'll be like hierarchy.
This is what I've told you what I think now.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get to know more about what's going on here, because
Ridley
all we
Scott,
have
Luke
right now is our theories. And
Ridley Scott, Luke
They're-
Scott, give us some answers, please.
Because
More questions now.
it also, because you were saying it looks like those creatures. I'm like, okay, so it does relate to it. Like if
Yeah, 'cause
if this is related to the creatures that we've been seeing that they've been feeding on, like they've been using for meat and stuff, it could be like
the only reason why I mentioned that it might be something related with Mother is because we see that white liquid that Mother oozes out, like when there's cuts.
It looks like it's
oozing
coming out of its mouth.
Out of its mouth.
But I would say maybe that's not white fluid that we've known as feel blood. It could be like slobber. It could be like saliva.
But why would it be specifically white like that? It could have just been clear.
Maybe someone came in its fucking mouth. I don't fucking know.
Okay, moving on from that scene, guys, ladies and gentlemen.
I would love to know what's going on here.
Yeah, please comment below. See
Oh, it's a muzzle. It's a muzzle. Go back.
Go back. Here
Well,
we go.
you get a better angle of it right there.
Here we go, guys. Let's see.
Because once it turns its head to the left side, you can see. Just wait for it. Wait for it. It looks like a muzzle to me.
You turn off the lights.
Hold on. It's because it does kind of look like a helmet, not just this. I forgot it's a
We don't get... Okay, so obviously we're intentionally not given a good look at this, right?
Yeah.
Like, so we're not supposed to know exactly what this is yet.
Fucking Luke
I'm-
and Ridley Scott are doing their job, dude, because they're leaving us to assume whatever the fuck we want.
I'm
Let
g-
the
I'm-
viewers interpret whatever they want from
So I'm
that.
going to push back against my own theory.
Uh-huh.
Looking at this thing more and more, it does not look like one of those creatures, right? It looks like it is a whole different other creature.
Yeah.
Fucking Ridley Scott, what the fuck? Don't fucking bring in other alien creatures. We have enough alien creatures already. I'm trying to figure out.
So many questions and no answers.
We're just getting more questions.
Please leave a comment below. See if we're full of shit. Guys, let us know. Please let us know your theories if you also have them yourself. Let us know what you think. Maybe it is. You guys think it's a muzzle. Maybe it's not. I'll let you decide your own.
Aaron, fucking DM me. I need to know what the fuck is going on.
We'll keep it. We'll wrap that shit up tight. We'll just keep it.
Yeah, we
between
don't
us.
have to disclose it. I just need to know.
His Twitter is down below in the links. Please contact him.
Please.
Alright, guys. Now
Moving on.
we get away from that scene. It actually goes back to Mother, and she seems to be reacting to something. Something's hurting her. It's showing discomfort again to her fetus, and we actually see the flow of the blood going backwards. It's actually going into Otho now, and you see Otho breathing heavily, and all that blood going in. Mother's in pain. Otho's finally getting up, and it's like he tells him, "It seems our blood flow has been reversed." Mother's trying to reach him, trying to get close to him, and Otho's like, "Your power is now mine." And he just throws her to the side like nothing, and he kind of like rips his shirt or something like that
But
during
It
that.
He's
starts
got-
ripping.
He's got so
because-
much blood that
Yeah.
it's like a bodybuilder or something, right?
Yeah,
that
it
he's just
looks like a
flexing
bodybuilder.
and it just rips the shirt by itself, just so that we could see as the audience that he's
Mhm.
so full of blood.
Yeah, please guys, do not fill yourself with blood to get stronger.
It's
Now,
illegal.
yeah, it is legal. Now the scene does go back to the lander, and Father's flying around. He's like, "Whoa, I see vital signs. They're highly irregular." He's actually looking at a tracker of a prisoner, is what he says. And he's like, "Is it dead?" And he's like, "No, the energy levels seemed inordinately high, on par with Mother's," which basically confirms what Otho just said, that your power is now mine. And Father's like, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go towards it." He's talking to Hunter at this point, letting him know, like, "You know what? This is gonna be our course." He starts heading over there. This is a very dark scene, I want to point out. It switches back to Tempest asleep, passed out. Obviously, he's gone through some shit. We see Otho's hand on top of her. He takes off the covers. She wakes up from what I personally think this is a nightmare of her, a personal nightmare of hers after she got raped.
Yeah.
She sees him and she stabs Otho, right? Otho's right on top of her. He
Yeah,
stabs him.
he's mounted on top of her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she stabs him, and he gets up like nothing. They're like, "Mother," and then Sue gets up and she shoots him twice or three times. You see blood coming out, but nothing. He's still tanking it.
So full of blood.
So full of blood, guys.
There's
The
so
kids
many
are
things
freaking
going
out.
on.
All the kids are freaking out. They're like, "Let go of her, let go of him, let
And-
go of me." They're
And
just-
Mother's
yeah.
passed out.
Yeah, due to the lack of blood. And everyone's freaking out. Holly actually picks up the relic that she found, which is the tooth, and she tells us, like, "Soul, give me strength." And it goes to Tempest and Otho outside. And he's like, let me go. And
Yeah,
Holly tells him.
Otho's dragging Tempest away for whatever reason.
Yeah, for God, I don't want to imagine what's
I
happened,
don't want
right?
to.
So Holly tells us, like, "Oh, she's impure. You convinced her that soul doesn't exist because of what you did to her," basically distracting him.
Mhm.
At this point, when Otho's distracted, Tempest actually takes out the robot that Otho had in the backpack, and she starts running away with it, knowing that there's a 10 feet difference that this guy's gonna die. She runs away, but Otho doesn't chase the helmet. She chases her. She starts choking her out, and then right on top of her, that helmet crushes Otho.
I want to point out, it looks to me like an unseen hand is gripping the helmet and
Yeah.
squeezes him. And so much blood coming out of his head.
Yeah, and then Tempest is laying down. She gets splashed. She looks up at the sky, and she sees 3 moons. And then she sees the lantern pass by. Holly gets someone's like, "Tempest?" It's like, "It's over," and she's shaking. Like, it's over. She's shaking, right? Just covered in blood. And
Re-traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scene ends, and it actually goes back to the temple. Again, We got Mr. Defeated Marcus over here, Your Eminence. Head is leaning towards the temple, doesn't know what to do. All the soldiers that are there are basically doubting him already
Well,
at this point.
it's Dorian that's saying the doubts, right?
Yeah, the asshole that was supposed to be on guard, by the way. And Marcus goes up to him and just slashes his throat. No questions, no comments. Again, like how the way he cut poor father's finger, like that, like nothing. And then he kills him, obviously. The soldiers kind of stare at him, kind of pissed off, like, what? Like,
there was no need for
yeah,
that.
there was no need for that. Marcus turns around to the temple, and then he tells him, oh, I sacrificed my lord. I am listening. Still desperate for an answer. Needs to hear Soul again. My lord, he says. Obviously, no response. Freaking out. He looks down at the knife, drops it. I feel like this is a moment where he realized that he's lost control. He's lost it.
He's gone too far.
Yeah, he's gone way too far. Throws a knife, covers himself with his jacket. Soldiers are looking at him. Done. This guy's not my leader anymore. Scene cuts back to Hunter and Father walking down to where that signal was at. Then they see Mother kind of stammering. She kind of falls to the ground. They see Holly, Tempest, all of them just run towards Mother. Father picks Mother up. He leans, he kind of just sits her down, like leaning towards him. Mother looks at Father and is like, Father? Is this a memory, is what she says. No, no, this is now. Father makes it very clear, like, this is happening. And you could see a smile on her face, like, you've been restored. And it's like, oh, Campion, like, she needs to go back inside. Obviously, Campion was thrown to the side. He was knocked out. They go back into the cave. Mother, she sees Campion knocked out on the floor, gets him. She runs towards him, and you see Vita that she was taking care of him the whole time, right? Like, she was just there with him. Mother carries, doesn't carry him, actually, just leans him, puts her on her lap.
Puts his head on her lap.
Yeah, puts his head on her lap, and she's just kind of touching his face, making sure he's okay, and he opens his eyes, and he's looking at Father, he's like, you're not real. Father's like, it's alright, it really is me. Like, which you do you mean? Because we've seen Campion interact with the other side of Father, which is the other programming. And Father very jokingly responds, knock knock. And you get basically we see a very happy reunion of a family here. We see Mother taking back Father. We see Campion accepting Father. And he's like, oh, don't ever leave me again. He's like, I promise. Yes, I promise you. And it's just a very happy reunion. And then at that very moment, Mother starts to feel, I guess, discomfort again in her stomach. And that's kind of what we see. We see her crawl towards a rock. And she kind of leans in and she says that she hasn't felt it move. It's like, it's not responding to my touch. That's what she says. It's not responding to my touch. Father, completely unaware of what's happening, is like, what isn't? And Campion comes in and is like, her father, her baby, Father. And then Mother's like, oh, it's dead. And like, he drained it. I could feel it. And he's talking about Otho, how he was draining the blood. Father's like, Mother, it's something collecting in your stomach. Now, if you allow me to relieve the pressure. Again, he was going to open it like the other android mentioned, by the way.
Like Carl.
Yeah. Justice for Carl. Mother's like, no, it's real, Father. Father kind of just taking it all in, like, okay, then I will find a creature, because he's gonna, obviously at this point he's gonna get more blood. He's not arguing with Mother anymore.
Yeah, I want to point out just how quick that goes on. That Father doesn't question it more than once. He's just like, oh well, maybe you're just confused or something. It's like, no, it's my baby and it's dying. It's like, okay, well, his next response is, okay, well, I've got to find the fuel. It's got to find the food for this child, right? It's just automatically his program's just, I'm back in my fatherly role.
Yeah, he does mention, Mother mentions that it's a carbon-based, it's half carbon-based, basically, life form that's going inside of her. So Father gets up and he leaves to look for a creature. Mother kind of still there. She looks kind of defenseless, I want to add.
Well, she's completely, she thinks that it's already dead.
Yeah. So at this point we see something very, I really like this scene. Mother looks there. She looks kind of like she's about to cry. Yeah. And you see Mary/Sue, she starts taking off her jacket. She starts taking off like her equipment that she had. And she basically
she ties up her arm.
She ties up her arm. And Mother's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm saving your baby. Obviously letting us know that she's actually going to start basically giving blood from her arm to Mother. and lets her know, I'm just gonna give you a pint, and then I'm gonna cut you off from there.
I'll point out a pint is a lot of blood. That is enough for it to impair your movement and stuff. It's a it's a heavy sacrifice, I think.
Yeah, and mother lets her know, like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not my family, or I'm not your friend. And at this point, this is like, you asked why I cared about Paul when he wasn't my own. Sue tells mother. Mother's like, yes. You said that humans have empathy, which androids lack. Sue says, right. Kind of like, she kind of, at this point, it kind of looks like she regretted saying that.
Yeah.
And she's kind of looking at her stomach, and then she mentions, like, I can't have kids, which goes back to what Lety had mentioned in previous episodes, that maybe that was something that was going to happen with her, and here we go. And she's basically letting mother know what happened to her, that she had a miscarriage, and it was years ago. Obviously, this happened on Earth, and mother's just listening to her story, and Sue's like about to cry, and she's like, so when we found Paul, she just says, I know that soul is a lie, but I suddenly understood how, when people can't believe their luck, they have to make up a god to thank for it. End quote. I thought that was real great, because it kind of shows us again what, there's always a line where science could only go so far, and at the end, if there's no scientific answers for it, people actually do go, like, oh well, it's because it's God, that's why. Like, maybe you just don't understand what's happening, but there we go. At this point, Sue actually cuts her off. It's like, okay, there, like, that's enough. So obviously, she's going delusional, thinking about soul, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really powerful scene back to back that we just had.
Yeah.
With the reunion of the Campion family, and now with Sue giving a part of herself to Mother, who she wanted to kill at first.
Yeah. I feel like this is her accepting her.
And confessing about a miscarriage.
Very traumatic for a woman, I believe. And at this point, it's the same scene. They just kind of move the camera to the side, and it shows all the kids around the little bonfire. No, that little campfire that they have there.
Focusing on Paul.
Yeah, focusing on Paul. And you hear kind of like a whispering.
Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. This is definitely soul whispering to Paul now.
We hear soul whispering to Paul. No specific words. We just hear whispers.
Yeah, and Paul gets up.
Like the first time it manifested to Marcus.
Paul gets up. He puts on his little bag. He starts walking outside, and he's looking up. Like, he's trying to see where these voices are coming from. He's kind of looking around him. He's looking back and forth. He's looking up, down. He's looking everywhere for these voices. He's still walking forward. Then he actually bumps into those cards that Mother actually scanned earlier in this episode. He picks them up one by one. He's looking at them, trying to see what they are, which he already knows what they are, right? He looks around, makes sure he's alone, and he actually throws them into a little fire that was outside.
For some reason, there was a little fire outside.
For some reason, for Otho, man. Otho was cold. And then he throws them into the fire, and he looks up and he says, praise soul. Again, whispers. No specific words, just a bunch of whispering around. He walks back to the little campfire that was inside, and it looks like basically they're gonna have a conversation. It's gonna be him and Campion. He sits next to him. He's like, you want to hear a secret? Paul mentions to Campion. Campion's like, sure. I got nothing else to do, right? And then Paul looks at Mother, and she's like, soul put that baby inside of Mother. Campion confused, like, how do you know that? Because you're full of shit, right? It's like, I could just feel it. Paul says, he's not evil like you said. Soul's trying to help us. This is him referencing to what he had mentioned, that Tally was evil, right? That he got that feeling from her. And then he mentions, like, this baby's gonna change everything, but that's it. Nothing else is mentioned. Him completely unaware that Mother had that weird, crazy cult vision, right, from the thing. So the scene comes back to Mother and Sue, and now Tempest is sitting next to her, and he's like, oh, I killed him. And he's like, yes, I know. And she gets interrupted, and she's like, oh, wait, like, Mother seems really happy, and she's looking around to everyone. She's like, it moved. It's alive. Thank you. And all the kids are around there, and there's like it's a very happy moment, like, to get reassured that the kid is alive again.
I want to just talking about that scene still. I think it's kind of funny
No.
that Tempest is coming in and she's like obviously like affected by the situation. She's re-traumatized.
Yeah.
And he's like, she's
Good
looking to
talk.
talk about it. It's like, oh well, I killed Arthur, and Mother's just like, okay, let's. Shh. My baby moved.
Yeah, not your baby, Tempest. My baby.
Everyone except Tempest gather around. And anyone want to feel my baby? It's
Because
just
I have a murderer sitting next to me.
because to me it just seems like okay, it's like
Like your problems are not important.
problem's not important. My baby's moving.
God. Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah.
So that scene kind of ends and it kind of shows them to the next day. And I'm assuming it's the next day because it starts off with Marcus and the 3 soldiers that are left with him just walking. And Lucius, little asshole, is like, oh, has he told you where we're going? It seems he doesn't quite favor you as he once did. Marcus replies, he tests us. And I was like, oh, well, Dorian was more than a test. Like Marcus said, we will pray for his soul. But obviously, you deemed him impure. And at this point is where Marcus kind of contradicts himself. Because he does say, well, that's the more reason to pray for him. This is where he makes it very clear that a true Mithraic would never pray for an impure soul. It's like what the android said was right. You're not Marcus. So who the hell are you? Marcus kind of had Caleb had a little smile on his face and he turns around. Like, you all wanted to be deceived. You're nothing but a bunch of sheep. All of them looked mad, pissed. All you unworthy of soul's love. You see, all I did was lead you back to the light. They're still looking at him like, fuck this guy. He's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it doesn't matter who I am. He's not answering his question of who he is. But he's like, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that he chose me to be king. And he kind of stretches his arms like side by side. He's like, oh, look at me. That's basically what that moment was.
Yeah, he's putting his arms out like Mother would.
Yeah. And at this point, it was just like, then he will surely protect you. Fuck his Marcus decided just to walk away because, yeah, I'm the king, blah, blah, blah. He smashes him across the head with a rock. And there's like a little downhill next to them. Lucius actually hit him and they fall down. They're both down there and he's just beating his face.
Yeah, beat him in a ditch basically.
Yeah, the other soldiers are looking. It's like, let soul's will be done. And as he's punching him, he puts his knees on him and he takes out the little pack where the little eyes were at, where Mother's eyes are at. Mm-hmm. He opens his mouth and he shoves him down his throat and he punches him again and he just kind of keeps his mouth closed and that was it. Marcus starts coughing out. He just starts coughing. He's kind of twitching. He's just stopped moving. Lucius starts climbing up the hill, completely ignoring him. He's not looking back anymore. The hell with this guy, right? And he walks away. The other 2 soldiers look down at Marcus. That girl soldier who apparently they were trying to give out some weird love thing
with Marcus
died out.
I don't think it fully died out. She kind of
hesitated
to.
Well, it wasn't love. I would say it was more like admiration.
Yeah. But it was kind of like a flirtation that she would do with him. So that's why I'm kind of like, maybe...
These religious fools don't know how to flirt.
The scene and episode ends with Marcus puts his head on the side, kind of closing his eyes like he's going to pass out. And you just see the white liquid. A little bit of blood, I want to add, coming out from his mouth. Mm-hmm. And that's it. End of episode.
Yeah. All right. You guys have any other thoughts?
Closing arguments.
Do you think he's dead?
I don't think he's dead. He's being paid way too much to die right now.
I think that maybe one of the eyes is fucked up. Maybe not both of them.
I don't know. Maybe because it was only one of the eyeballs that he shoved into his mouth, right?
Well, yeah, we only did see one eyeball. You're right.
I don't know what that shit's supposed to do to him, right? Like Lucius did it like it was supposed to do something.
Yeah, he did it, but like he like if he knew like, oh, this is gonna fucking kill you, like
yeah, like, fuck you, I hate you.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, okay, if he wanted to kill him, he would have killed him, right? It seems like he put him more in a situation for Soul to save him or something, right? That's what I'm getting from that.
Because he didn't kill him. They had
like,
guns.
Yeah, they had guns.
He said this thing before he attacked, like,
then he will protect you.
Yeah. So.
And the whole time while Lucius was talking to Marcus, Lucius had his hand on his machete.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to fucking cleave the guy in the back. But he obviously didn't want to kill him. He obviously wants Soul to save him.
He's
right?
still living it up to Soul. Because, I mean, I
It's-
guess a part of him really still respects him as a leader.
I guess.
A very small part, he just beat the shit out of him, right? But he still wants to believe he's right. Because after Marcus is gone or dead, whatever you want to think
What are
about
they
it,
gonna do?
what are they going to do? They're just soldiers, man.
Yeah.
Like, none of them actually showed any leadership skills to begin with. Like he said, they were sheep.
Yeah, they really were, especially Lucius.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
fucking in love with him.
Yeah.
He was ready to be deceived.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He needed the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? The validation that Marcus gave him about his father, right?
Mm-hmm. He was the only one. I mean, I guess he had like a special
Connection.
with
Because of
Marcus
that.
because he wanted to believe him. There were so many clues out there that okay, these people aren't the ones that they say they are,
Yeah.
but he wanted to believe him. And Lucius would like back up whatever
Oh,
Marcus
yeah.
would say. That's why everyone else would back him up because Lucius is doing okay then.
Yeah, he was always the first one
Mm-hmm.
to say like, oh no, he's my king.
Yeah.
So at this point, I guess they're gonna go back to the Mithraea camp, walking sadly,
I
and
have
there were
no
still
idea
there were
what
still
they're doing.
clerics there,
Yeah,
weren't there? There were
there's
still
clerics. So
There was the other
Oh
girl.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
the other clerics. I don't know why I assumed that they all came on this mission with them.
Yeah,
but
and I guess me too. That's when I mentioned like, oh, who's left? When I was like, wait, actually,
there
the
are the
clerics.
clerics. There are the clerics.
I guess
and
that
the
girl
female
that was
cleric,
next in
the-
line. That
Yeah,
girl
the
was
female
next in
cleric
line.
will definitely be the one in charge now. I'm interested to see where that goes because they're gonna be more traditional Mithraic, right?
I feel like
But,
she's fucking strict, like whatever.
Well, we haven't seen her do anything.
You know,
The one
yeah.
thing,
would've
the
been
one decision she did make, she did not want to blow up the temple.
Yeah.
That,
If she was strict though, she wouldn't have let Marcus be in charge. Because she was like, oh,
Well,
but you're
she-
not
Well,
a.
she had
She
no-
wanted
she
to
wanted
not
to,
let him,
yeah.
but the soldiers were at his
yeah,
back.
like how can you go against or how can you, I guess, lead people that aren't backing you up?
Well, I mean, I would say, how can you physically oppose the soldiers when you are just
Yeah.
clerics?
Yeah.
You have to go with the soldiers.
Yeah, arm the people, man. Arm the people.
On the people. Before we end the episode, I do want to bring it back to Paul hearing Soul's voice, because that was a huge thing for me. I heard that and I'm like, oh my god, that's it.
Yeah.
So now he's the chosen one of Soul, right? And
He's the
it
one
shows,
he favors, yeah.
and it shows that Soul's voice or whatever it is not omnipresent. It seems to be going from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
To where it, as far as we know, it started with Artho on the ship
Mhm.
while they were traveling over the years or whatever. Then it went to Marcus after he, I guess, needed to protect everyone, or I don't know exactly what it was.
Yeah, I guess he needed to save Mother because.
Well, it wasn't that. He started hearing the voices when
Your eminence wasn't really.
the first guy,
Yeah,
the
but
one
why
with the two
wouldn't-
androids.
At that point, you're limiting Soul for not be able to see the future that he was gonna be the one left with the choice to save Mother.
Yeah, but I mean, like, why would he pick him if he's not going to end up doing it in the right way, right? I'd say, like, it's not an omnipresence. It is just going into situations where it seems it can influence and have favor, right? And it leaves the person, potentially, once he gets enough resistance or once he sees that that guy's job is done. And I would go as far to say that he's lying to these people. Soul's voice is lying to them.
Well, yeah.
Because he told Marcus that he would be king, and now he left him.
Well, I mean, he was king.
Is he?
For a bit.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
really a
there's
king.
no
It was more
promises.
like a leader.
He was in
like,
charge. He was in
yeah.
charge. But as soon as he said like, "Oh, I'm gonna be king," that's when Lucius was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna call your bluff and see what happens."
Well, let's see, because I mean,
Oh yeah,
spoiler alert. I'm pretty sure he's alive, right? Pretty sure he's gonna come back in the next episode.
he's being paid too much to die off.
That's right, dude. There's no way.
There's no way.
But
to get rid of
okay,
him.
let's say he comes back in the next episode. He could come back like that. He could come back as like, well, I survived because Soul tested and I survived this test, whatever.
I'd be interested to see if they do end up going into like, okay, he's still religious. He just has more of a traditional religious sense
Okay.
of, okay, I believe something that's not there physically for me. Whereas before he started believing because he was heavily influenced by the voice or whatever.
I just hope the next episode is at least an hour long because this episode was
It was
pretty
40
shorter.
minutes.
It was pretty short
It was
compared
short
to the other
compared
ones.
to the other ones. You're definitely right. And I would agree with you. I hope the next one is longer. But we'll get into that when we get into that. Any other final thoughts? I want to thank you guys for listening to our podcast, Far Side of the Moon. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. Our links are down below. Please like the episode. Really appreciate that. And watch out for the next one here on the Far Side of the Moon.